In this video, we're going to look at NIM's integration with NukeStudio, creating shots from NukeStudio, publishing elements, compositing files, and round-tripping Nuke composites. I have a job in progress, and we can see that our sequence is empty. Let's switch over to NukeStudio and see that I have an active sequence with shots existing on the timeline. I've already named them in a sequential order using the integrated renamer tool inside NukeStudio. If we right-click any item on the track, we can see that we have an integrated NIM menu with options for update selected shots in NIM, build track from elements, and clear NIM tags from selected shots. Updating selected shots in NIM will create new shots in the selected show if no matching named shots exist. If NIM does find a shot with the identical name, it will link the track item to that shot. If any changes are made on the timeline, we can use update selected shots in NIM to update those changes. Build track from elements builds a new track from selected element types within the shot. Clear NIM tags from selected shots removes all associated NIM data from the selected item. In addition to these menu options, we have built-in export structures. Selecting the NIM process as shots export, we can see we have two default options here. First one is NIM plates and comps. This export preset reads the NIM project structure and transcodes images, writes Nuke project files, and sets the Nuke write node output for their respective locations. Let's take a look at these in action. First, I want to create shots in my sequence. If I go back to NIM, I can see that I have no existing shots here. I'm going to select all my items on my timeline and right-click and choose NIM, Update Selected Shots in NIM. I'm going to choose the job and the show, and I'm going to click Export. Here we can see NIM tags have been applied to each of the different track items. Switching back to Safari and refreshing my sequence, I now see that all of my shots have been added to NIM, as well as shot icons and shot information, including the number of frames. If I modify any of these clips and choose Update Selected Shots in NIM, choosing the same job and show, I can see that my frame counts will update appropriately. Let's go back to NukeStudio, and now that we have these shots associated with NIM, what I'd like to do is actually export plates and Nuke comps. So I'm going to select all of my shots. Before I export all of my shots, I need to ensure that my project export settings match the NIM exports I'm going to use. So I choose Project, Edit Settings, click on Export, and choose my NIM plates and comps preset. So we right-click Export and choose NIM Process as Shots, NIM Plates and Comps. We're going to select our job, the server we've defined in NIM for our job when we brought the job online, and the show that we want to write these to. If you've already associated track items with shots in NIM, that data will override these values. If you want to write shots to a new location, you need to clear the NIM tags first. The option to publish transcoded images as NIM elements lets you select the element type you've defined in NIM for your transcodes. Publish Nuke project files as NIM files lets me choose the task that I wish to associate these NIM files with. The rest of the values I'm going to leave as default, so NIM reads these directly from the NIM project structure. And I'm going to choose Export. Now that our export is finished, let's take a look at our sequence in NIM. If we click on the shot information and click on Elements, we can see we've logged our transcode as a plate to our shot. Additionally, if we click on Files, we can see that our Nuke project file has been exported from NukeStudio as a new base name, and our first version has been logged, ready to be picked up by a Nuke compositor. Let's jump back to NukeStudio, and let's build a track based off of those plates we just exported. Go to NIM, Build Track from Elements, and we can choose plates. And I'm going to say build track. Looking back at our sequence, this track now points to the new location of my plates that we just exported, built from the information stored in NIM. Additionally, we can build track from the export structure, choose NIM plates and comps, and I'm going to put my Nuke comps on the timeline. I'm going to say build. These haven't been rendered and no work's been done yet. But as compositors start working, you'll see reflected updates in your timeline. I'm going to go ahead and render this comp. And we can see that it currently matches the existing plates, as no changes have been made yet. Let's switch over to Nuke now and open that newly exported comp. Using the NIM connector menu integrated into Nuke, I'm going to choose NIM, Open. NIM knows this was the last job I was working on, so I'm going to select my shot. I'm going to choose comp, base name, and my version, which is the Nuke project file exported from NukeStudio. And I'm going to choose Open Comp. Here we can see our shot. And I'm going to add a blur and a color correct node, just so we could see our changes. Now what I want to do is version up in NIM by choosing NIM, version up. This will automatically create a version 2. We'll call this blurry and bright. And then we can go back to NIM, look at our shot 3, look at our files, and see that we have our original logged file, which was the export from NukeStudio, and the new version I just saved, blurry and bright. In NukeStudio, we can go to our track item and say version, scan for versions. See, we have a new version found, and it's our version 2. It hasn't been rendered yet, so from within NukeStudio, I'm going to choose Render Comp. Here we can see that our updates have been reflected back on the NukeStudio timeline. Using these same methods of publishing NIM elements, or creating a comp from the export structure, you can create a Nuke output track as well. Now that we have our working timeline, we want to go ahead and save this into NIM. Using our integrated NIM menu, we can see we have several options. We have project options, comp options, and settings. If we go to project, we can choose Save As. We can see the name of the NukeStudio project we're going to save. We choose our job, our server, our show, and our task type. Here I'm going to choose Conform. I'm going to add a comment saying this is our initial conform. And I'm going to choose Save Project. The NukeStudio project is named and saved in the location that you've defined in your NIM project structure. If we made any changes, we simply go Project, Version Up. When opening a fresh NukeStudio, if we want to return, we choose Project, Open. NIM will remember the last location. But again, if you're working in another job, you would select your job, your show, your task, base name, and here are our 2 versions. Our compositing menu is identical to our Nuke menu. Since NukeStudio works as both a timeline and as a compositor, when working with Nuke files within NukeStudio, use the NIM comp menu to open, save, and version your files. In another video, we'll take a more in-depth look at Nuke's menu as well as the NIM write nodes that are available. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please email us at support@nim-labs.com or visit the support forum at support.nim-labs.com. We look forward to hearing from you.